It's all good.
Okay. I will get started then. Are you okay if
Have fun, Jen. I will. Yeah. Thanks.
Hello. Testing. Hello. Testing. There we go. Hello, folks. Welcome and good evening. We're going to begin. I'll give folks a moment to find some seats and get settled. Thank you so much for joining us. All right, we'll get started. So good evening and welcome to the 23rd last lecture for the class of 2025. What an incredible honor it is to be here with you this evening to celebrate your accomplishments. My name is Jen and I work in student experience here at the University of Guelph. And to begin this evening, I'd like to acknowledge that the main campus at the University of Guelph resides on the ancestral lands of the Attawandaron people and the treaty lands and territories of the Mississaugas of the Credit. I also recognize that Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples have long-standing and ongoing relationships with this land, and that wherever you are joining us from today, Canada is home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. I also recognize the significance of the Dish with One Spoon Covenant and the significance that it holds, particularly within this space and on this campus. So I'd like to pause for a moment to share gratitude and to think about responsibility within the context of this evening. Tonight, you are going to be asked to reflect on how different aspects of yourself have received nourishment in various ways during your time here. You'll be asked to think about learning, personal development, connections, and friendships. My hope is that you're able to pause to appreciate these memories. And while you think of what you have gained by being a part of this community, my ask is that you also think about how you're able to share some of this as you move forward. This institution, like many institutions, is a colonial structure. It is also a place that encourages critical thinking, the exploration of past, and the generation of new ideas. I'll leave you with a question as we embark to hear our 3 lectures this evening. My question is, what sense of stewardship do you hold as you think about sharing what you have learned, or maybe unlearned, during your time here? So welcome students, faculty, senior administrators, staff, friends, family, and community members. Wherever you are in the world, or whatever time zone or geographic location, we're so glad that you're joining us. And most importantly, a very special welcome to our lecturers, as well as those of you who have brought us here this evening, the class of 2025. So before we begin our lecture, I'd like to welcome Dr. Bill Rosehart, our Provost and Vice President Academic, to officially welcome you on behalf of the University of Guelph. Thank you.
Good afternoon and welcome. It is really an honor to be here with you today to celebrate. Spring is a very special time on our university campus. Even if, as we were reminded yesterday, the Canadian weather sends us a few unexpected snowstorms, it's still a really special time. Spring signals the conclusion of our academic year. It is a time when students celebrate finishing up courses, our academic program milestones, and start planning their next academic year. For a very special group of students, the courses you complete this term are the completion of your thesis or graduate project represents the successful completion of your academic journey. Today is a very special event. Today we hear reflections from a few very special people. Today is about your individual and collective experiences and accomplishments, both inside and outside of your courses. So with that, I ask that everyone here, and I know if you're doing this if I hear noise, I ask that everyone takes a moment and reflects on some of your wonderful experiences and accomplishments here at the University of Guelph. Then, in a moment, if you're willing, briefly share one thing with someone sitting next to you. So reflect and share. Over to you.
You didn't go here, so it's not fair.
Yeah, I didn't go.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about my position though, just kind of.
So what's your moment?
Well, I've finished 2 years now, and so
Yeah.
just getting to know the campus and the people in
Yeah.
the community.
Nice.
I might get you to share to the whole room. Share now. I love the energy in the room. So we, the professors, staff, and leaders of the University of Guelph are so proud of you for the journey you have taken, full of rich learnings, wonderful experiences, countless accomplishments to reach this incredible milestone. Congratulations.
So thank you, Dr. Rosehart, for your words of welcome and for getting us chatting together and kind of remembering why Guelph is so special. It's the community and it's the people here. The last lecture began here at the University of Guelph many years ago with the purpose of celebrating you, the graduating student. Today, we've come together to reflect and celebrate. We hope that this evening you are able to give consideration to your time at Guelph and your many remarkable achievements. Today is a time to celebrate those who are with us, those who may not have been able to attend, and also remember those who have left us too soon. It's a time of excitement, of sadness, bittersweetness, and probably a bit of nervousness or some other emotions finding their way in there. This evening, you'll be hearing from 3 different members of our Griffin family. They'll be speaking on themes of reflection, celebration, inspiration, and determination. One address will be from a classmate of yours who is also in the final days of earning their degree, another by one of our faculty members voted by you, and finally, we have an address from a special member of our alumni community. So let's begin. Every year, graduating students are invited to apply and compete to be the student last lecturer. A selection committee composed of staff and, of course, students makes the final selection. This is never an easy decision, and I really wanted to thank the students who took time to apply and those who took time to present to the committee. Thank you to all of the members of the community who also wrote letters of support for the applicants. The process really demonstrates to us once again the incredible students that make up our university and the caring community they've helped build for us all to be able to enjoy. It is my pleasure to introduce this year's student lecturer to share some reflections with you. Avery Bendel is a dedicated biomedical sciences student, researcher, and mentor with a deep commitment to community service, leadership, and academic excellence. As a senior campus tour guide, Avery welcomes prospective students to the University of Guelph, helping to create a sense of belonging. Beyond leading tours, she trains future tour guides to develop strong communication skills and enhance their understanding of the campus community. Academically, Avery is a researcher in the Human Performances Lab, where she has authored several manuscripts on exercise physiology and earned a publication for her work in a sustainable case competition. As a former competitive athlete, Avery is a pre-competitive gymnast coach, where she focuses on creating safe and empowering environments for young girls in sports. Outside of academics and coaching, Avery plays the trumpet in the Guelph Concert Band and has mentored seniors in her community who are learning to play the instrument, fostering meaningful intergenerational connections through music. Avery's dedication to service extends to her role as a volunteer at the Guelph General Hospital, where she provides emotional and social respite to patients. Here, she has developed a passion for empathetically driven healthcare, inspiring her to apply to medical school and pursue a career in family medicine. I am pleased to welcome this year's Student Last Lecturer, Avery Bendel.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay at the back? Awesome. I just want to say a huge thank you to all who helped to organize this event and for allowing me the honor to deliver the last lecture today. It's truly an honor. I know Jen introduced me, but I'm Avery Bendel. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm graduating from the Bachelor of Science, majoring in biomedical science, and minoring in math. Class of 2025. We've come so far, and it's time to reflect on that. I want everyone in this room to take a minute and think about why they chose Guelph so many years ago. For many of us in this room, if not all of our graduating class, we started during the COVID-19 pandemic and didn't know what our programs were going to look like. In fact, that meant that a lot of us weren't even able to take a campus tour prior to making that big decision. But not to worry, because for the last 3 years, I've been a proud U of G campus tour guide. So while you might have missed out on your first tour of the University of Guelph, I'm here to take you on your last tour of the University of Guelph. Starting out first, on the corner of our campus, the Griffin statue. This was the statue that welcomed you to the city of Guelph, that welcomed you to our campus, and which someone made you pose for a picture in front of before they dropped you off in residence. Now, I hope this was a shared experience and I'm not the only one with this awkward photo living on my camera roll. But just off of the Griffin statue, you have to get to campus, so you'll find the bus loop. Now, I know you've all been on the bus at least once throughout your time here. Whether you packed on the 99, dressed up in your Guelph gear, headed downtown for the Frosty Mug game, or maybe it was actually a Thursday night and you were going downtown for dollars. Honestly, sometimes it looked like getting a spot on the 99 was going to be more competitive than getting tickets to the Taylor Swift Eras tour. But I digress. I know you all got to campus one way or another. Otherwise, you wouldn't be graduating shortly here. But to the real star of the show, we're headed to campus. And just off the bus loop, you'll find our university center. A place that's packed full of resources. And in my personal opinion, the best resource of all, the Royal City grilled cheese sandwich with curly fries. Or maybe you're headed to the Brass Taps for trivia night, which is a great way to learn a new Disney fact at question 13, or maybe forget the name of every artist who has a song starting with the letter P. But we won. And academically speaking, my go-to study spot has to be the airport lounge, perfect for people watching. Because no matter what brought you here, food, fun, or last-minute cramming, the University Center is where we all came together, making it truly the heartbeat of campus life. But we're headed to class, so let's go visit Rosansky Hall for one last lecture. Now, for those of you who might not already know, Rosansky Hall used to be a barn way back in the day, but now we just keep our first years in there instead. And I can remember my first class in there like it was yesterday. It was Physics 1080, which some of you might remember has an at-home lab component, which in my dorm room went a little sideways at times. But I know you've all sat in the seats of Rosansky 104, whether it was for Psych 1000, which I feel like was a rite of passage for everyone to graduate, or maybe it was Chem 1040 and Chem 1050, which I know was a rite of passage for us science students. Or maybe you have fond memories of micro or macroeconomics. Because what made those classes memorable were the people sitting on either sides of us, struggling through the same course content. And that's what truly united us. But classes are over, so let's head to the athletic center and burn off some steam. For those of you who bought the NRG membership, you'll know what a real asset some of those workout classes are. There's kickboxing and Zumba and yoga. And in my first year, the class that I thought was going to be totally for me was called Hit the Water, or High Intensity Interval Training meets Water Sport. Now that description led me to believe that the course was going to look something like this. And it wasn't until I was already in the pool when I met the real target audience of the class, senior women in the community, when I learned that Hit the Water was actually code for Aquafit. But nonetheless, I found my people in the athletic center. They just so happened to be on the rock wall instead. And by my second year, this became my entire personality. My friends will describe me as crunchy granola. But every time I go rock climbing, I continue to meet students who are engaged and welcoming, supportive, and equally excited to help me reach new heights, as it were. So whether you are a varsity athlete, an intramural champion, or maybe just a recreational aquafitter like me, just know that the connections you formed in this space are foundational to the community that you will create as soon-to-be Guelph grads. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. We still have to get through exams. So let's lock in for one last study session at the library. Coming onto the first floor, you'll find a group study space, which is actually code for yapping with your friends, staring at your laptop, pretending to get work done, an art which I have personally perfected. Or maybe you're really trying to lock in, so you lock into that Starbucks line for 20 minutes. Great way to kill some time, and it is the largest earning Starbucks in Guelph, just a fun fact. But honestly, for those of us who made the library our late night study spot, it's oddly comforting to know that there are other students out there who share the trauma of the alarm going off at the end of the night, letting you know that it's time to go home and rest. But with rest on the brains and the studying coming to a close soon, we're going to be alumni. So let's take a stroll down Alumni Walk, or maybe down Memory Lane, and reflect on the green. Now, Johnston Green is one of those spaces that will forever make me think of Guelph. It's a beautiful place to try slacklining, to have a picnic, take a nap, and reflect on some of the historic moments that have come to pass throughout our time here. For example, we saw Barbenheimer come into existence. Most importantly, we saw ChatGPT come to life. And from this space right here, we saw the solar eclipse. Now, while we might not have been in the path of totality on the day of the eclipse, Johnston Green is a space which encapsulates lifelong memories. And on this day, I was surrounded by people who have impacted my journey as a Griffin in the most profound of ways. So as we think about these connections that have impacted us throughout our time here, it's important to express our gratitude. So let's travel back to the heart of our campus, to the bull ring, and deliver some thank yous. The first thank you goes out to the bull ring staff for introducing me to ice cream sandwiches between 2 chocolate chip cookies, and the half hot chocolate, half coffee combo that fueled my 4th year thesis. As we leave the bull ring, a thank you to Bob's Dogs for live music and an excellent handlebar mustache. Back at Center Campus at Brannion Plaza, I want to thank our professors and our graduate students for teaching us and mentoring us, even when it was challenging. I want to thank our support staff and our counselors for guiding us through last-minute course changes, for taking care of our well-being, and making campus life meaningful. I want to thank the Canon for showing us that every day is a new opportunity. Now, I've heard they don't actually give out your diploma until you paint the Canon, so let's hope you've all checked that off of your Guelph bucket list. because the final thank you goes out to the people that you painted the canon with. The friends you stayed up late studying with. The friends who reminded you to take breaks when you forgot. And the ones who made you belly laugh at the most inappropriate of times. At the beginning of this tour, I asked everybody to reflect on why they chose Guelph. And I'll be the first to admit that I had no clue what I wanted out of my university degree. In fact, that indecision led me here by closing my eyes and selecting something off of my application portal. And that is never the advice that you want to hear from your U of G campus tour guide. But that was my reality, and I think that the moral of the story is that the right choice is often the one that you make. So as we embark on new journeys at the end of this semester, whether you plan to pursue graduate school, to travel the world, to start a new job, or maybe just take time for yourself to figure it all out, I truly, truly believe that whatever you choose to do next will be right for you. And the reason that I know that to be true is because at the end of the day, it was never about the program or the classes or even the buildings themselves. It was about the people I surrounded myself with. It was about the community I was welcomed into. And it was about the friends who uplifted me along the way. So no matter what the next chapter of life looks like for you, I hope that you continue to seek out and foster communities which make you feel as welcomed, supported, inspired, and connected, just as we were here. Congratulations, class of 2025. We've come so far. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Avery. I'm curious, by a show of hands, how many folks was at your first Guelph tour? Okay, a number of people. I'm glad it was such a great experience then. I want to thank Avery. I think her words where she's talking about whatever choice you make is the right choice for you. And I think that's so important and so resounding as you're sitting kind of finishing up your undergraduate degree and starting to explore what those next steps might look like, because there can be a lot of thoughts and feelings happening at this time. And it's important to remember that you're allowed to take some time to think about it. You're allowed to know exactly where you want to go and what you want to do, and any combination in between those options that feels like is where you're at. So I hope you can take Avery's words and reflect on those and find some comfort in those kind of in the days and weeks ahead as you're finishing up exams and you have those bittersweet moments of thinking, is this the last time I'm going to buy a coffee at the Bull Ring or have an ice cream sandwich? The weather's warm today, so maybe it's time already. So as you may recall, graduating students were invited to vote for faculty members that you wanted to hear from one last time. While only one faculty is lecturing this evening, I wanted to share with you the list of those who are voted as the top 14 faculty alongside our lecturer. So you'll find their names up on the screens beside me. Together, all of these folks represent the 7 colleges and a range of academic disciplines. I'd like us to take a moment to celebrate these incredible faculty members, so please join me in a round of applause. So congratulations once again to all of the faculty nominated. It's obvious that we have some fantastic people teaching at our university. Thank you to each of you for being the kind of instructor that students remember, for being the mentor and the role model that past, current, and future Griffins can continue to rely on. And now it's my pleasure to introduce this year's faculty lecturer. Dr. Benke Cook earned her PhD from McMaster University, where she focused on youth risk behavior and how families, schools, and the larger community have an impact on the choices youth make about early school leaving, substance use and misuse, and sexual relationships. She also completed a postdoctoral fellowship with the Faculty of Medicine at McMaster Population Health Research Institute, where she studied the impact of poverty on health outcomes for youth and their families. Her experiences in these academic environments led her to launch her entrepreneurial career, and I practiced that word too, where she determined that she would step into the gap and provide youth with up-to-date, relevant, and factual health information so that they could make informed decisions about their health and well-being. She subsequently authored and implemented peer mentor-led youth risk behavior interventions in several boards of education across the province of Ontario. Those experiences led her to further her support and through her coaching practice assist anxious and neurodivergent students entering post-secondary school so that they might enjoy a successful experience both in and outside of the classroom. She continues to provide audiences in the education, sport, and business communities with her signature talks on resiliency, living an authentic life, embracing the now, and recognizing that adversities can be opportunities. She believes that seemingly challenging experiences can be transformative, and they can oftentimes teach us more than our successes do. Dr. Benke Cook believes that we can be stronger than before and often shares her life's journey that includes raising 4 children while attending grad school, owning a food truck for a time, which I have some follow-up questions about, loving her life as a lecturer here at the University of Guelph in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology, where she primarily teaches large first-year classes, and kicking cancer's ass after being diagnosed with breast cancer just over 12 years ago. Her motto, "Today is a new day," lies bare her heartfelt belief that every day brings a fresh new beginning, and that embracing it with joy and gratitude enriches one's life, as well as the lives of those around us. Dr. Benke Cook is a lifelong Hamiltonian, currently enjoying life in the downtown core with her husband Gordy and their 4 children, now all young adults, along with their 3 dogs, Daisy, Stella, Baxter, and 1 cool cat named Elliot. It is with great pleasure that I introduce this year's faculty lecturer, Dr. Deanna Benke Cook.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Thank you all for coming out this afternoon. So beautiful to see everyone. I just want to start by saying I'm so honored to be here, and you're my heart. My students are my heart. And I say to you all the time, for those of you who've been in my class, it's like I wouldn't be standing at the front of the class if you weren't in the room. And the whole purpose of us being here together is for us to share information and to learn and to grow and to, make it a beautiful experience both inside and outside of the classroom. I have a few little slides that I want to roll through here, but I want to start by saying, move over to the mic here. Congratulations. This is an incredible accomplishment. And I know you've been at this for a little while, but you've been gunning for this since you were 4 years old, 5 years old, right? In elementary school, building popsicle stick forts and castles and soggy Bristol board presentations that you dragged with you, right? And then off to high school that you go and sitting in the guidance office trying to figure out which post-secondary institution you want to move on to, and all the sweat and the tears and the worry about, maybe I'm going to tell people where I've applied, or maybe I'm not going to say anything just in case I don't get in, right? And here you are. What an incredible accomplishment. I'm really, really proud of you. And I know all your faculty members are really proud of you. We do what we do because we love you and we want to bring whatever we can, to your experience. So congratulations. And you are incredible, and all of the things that you've accomplished along the way. A few things for you to think, what you did over these last 4 years, and I did a little bit of math here. You did 15 hours in class every week on average, 25 out of class study hours on average per each week, 10 courses per academic year, on average, let's say over 4 years. So 1,120 hours of study per academic year times 4 years on average, equaling 4,480 hours of total study on average, not counting summers of additional study or placement or co-op or work study experience. And then what else did you do? Extracurricular activities, student government, part of a club or an association, Safe Walk Griffins, being a varsity athlete, an ally, times that you stayed up helping a friend, maybe some pub nights along the way. Games that you may have attended, pep rallies, science fairs, marketplace shopping in the UC, Starbucks lineups, and cold pizza for dinner because you had to scurry in sub-zero temperatures across Weingard Walk back to your space. And you've been really busy all of these years, and here you are. No doubt you have faced significant challenges along the way. I don't know any students that haven't at some point. Everyone has those experiences from time to time, and yet you persevered. Maybe you thought at some point, what am I even doing here? Like, do I belong? Am I going to manage to do whatever it is that I wanted to do? But you did, even when you didn't think you could. Well done. So now, thank you for this invitation. I have a few things that I want to share with you and a few thoughts as you prepare to move forward. The first point that I would love to make for you is live your authentic life. And what does that actually really mean, living your authentic life? It means that you live aligned with your values and your passions, your goals, your dreams. And it's very much recommended that you live your authentic life because when you do, the research shows us people have and report greater life satisfaction, or happier, or more likely to show gratitude. People who live authentically trust their own motivations and their own values. And it's indicative that you're true to yourself, you're acting and behaving and feeling in a way that reflect those values. According to research from Wesley College in the great state of Massachusetts, living authentically means to put more focus on being yourself and not some other person's version of who they expect you to be. And here's the good part of this is it frees you from the idea that people need to agree with you or they need to approve of your choices. You get to prioritize your peace, your mental health, your goals, your dreams. You don't need anybody's permission to be yourself because you already are. There's another win, living authentically, when you genuinely and actually care, about what it is that you're doing, you're more likely to pick yourself up when you fall down, when you hit a roadblock, when there's a loss or a challenge, and everyone experiences those from time to time. But when you are living your authentic life, you care. It's not going to stop you. You had a failure, you had a challenge, you have your eye on what it is that you want to accomplish, and it's about where am I going to move next. Brings us to the next point here. Challenges are absolutely necessary for our own personal and our own professional growth. For anybody who works out in the gym here, you'll know you never get stronger lifting the same weight. It just moves forward, and the more that you push yourself, the more that you persevere, the stronger that we get. So here's what happens when stuff goes sideways. You hit a roadblock, failure, challenge of some kind. What's the first thing that you do? You take a pause and you're like, I have to problem solve. What am I going to do now? Which way am I going to go? Do I still want to go in that direction? And what happens then is you have skills. And when you have skills, you reach that next level. And when you run into another roadblock, which you will, and we all do eventually, you have those skills that you didn't have before. So the challenges actually work out in your favor, even though it doesn't necessarily feel that way at the time. This one is my personal favorite. Never let anybody convince you that what you want to do or accomplish or achieve is not realistic. Because how would they know? How would they know what's realistic for you? They don't know what your gifts are. They don't know what your dreams are. They don't know what your goals are. And why should they, or why could they, or how could they? Because they're not you, right? So here's a little scenario I want to give you. Let's say you're standing in the Starbucks lineup in the library, you know, that really long one? And you're standing there and you're having just a little thought, and you're looking around, and somebody across the way, you kind of notice them and you look at them and you go, hey, I like your shoes. And they go, thanks. How was your day? And you go, good, how's your day? And then you start chatting and you're like, oh, what program are you in? Oh, I'm in that program. Oh, you're in that program? Oh, which course are you taking? You know, conversation ensues. Perhaps you share information, you connect with each other on social media. Oh, you meet a few other people. Next thing you know, you formed a study group, you get together every Wednesday night or Tuesday afternoon or whatever it is, because everybody's got goals. And the next thing you know, you've met your future business partner. Now, somebody may have said to you when you were in grade 8 or grade 11 or grade 12, if you said, oh, I want to start my own business and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and somebody said to you, well, that's not realistic, well, how would they know? Plus, here's another fan favorite. Anybody ever say to you, well, you need something to fall back on? Who in the hell wants to fall back? We don't want to fall back. We want to move forward. And if you don't go for your goals and your dreams, then you never really know. Back to my little piece here. One of the other things that I want to share with you is that sometimes the people who say to us that what we want to accomplish isn't realistic are folks who never even tried. And it's kind of a challenging thing sometimes too, when really good things, and I don't know if any student can, identify with this. Sometimes it's easier to share losses with people and they go, oh, I feel really bad for you. But when you have a really great win, sometimes people are not so happy to celebrate your wins with you, and those are your real friends. So if you've met those people here, that's amazing. The only things that are real are true are things that have already happened, and everything else is a possibility. And here's the thing about thinking that way, that everything is a possibility. The possibilities in this life are limitless. So here's the beautiful part. I did a little bit of research on this. People who have that idea that everything is possible are more likely to be happy. They're more likely to take risks. They're more likely to be curious. They're more likely to find new directions to move in. And the part about thinking about everything is possible is that sometimes when we try to control our future, we forget that there are going to be unknowns and that we think we should have everything sorted out. And there's no such thing as have everything sorted out all of the time. As Avery said, you never know where you're headed next. And the decision that you make is the decision to make. And it's the right one. Here's another one that I think a lot of students can really appreciate. If you need a permission slip, here's the thing about seeking approval. Most of us really want other people's approval, that what we're doing is okay, how we feel is acceptable. We don't want to be criticized, especially if, we're afraid that we're going to fail in some way. Here's the thing, though, is when you feel wholeheartedly secure about a decision that you're making, you don't really need people's approval. You go for it anyway. It's only when you're worried or you're afraid, you're like, am I doing the right thing? Am I going the right direction? Am I making the right choices? And at the end of the day, people don't know how you think or how you feel or what gifts you have or which direction you're heading in. Which takes me to the next point here. I'm a firm believer that we all have gifts. And some of you have incredible math brains. Some of you are creative beyond measure. Some people are so empathetic and know exactly how to support each other. Some people have a drive for business. Some of you can sing. Some of you have incredible baking skills or whatever the case might be. And here's the thing about those gifts is that those gifts were given for you to use. So if you need a permission slip to use the gifts, here it is. The point is that we need you. We need your passion, we need your intellect, we need your compassion, we need your empathy, we need you to use your gifts. Using your gifts isn't selfish, it's service. And if that provides you with a little bit of encouragement or boosts you up a little bit, okay, maybe I can do that, maybe I can try that, then I hope that this helps in whatever way. The other thing is, it's like if somebody gave you a gift and they wrapped it all up and they had a nice bow on it and they handed it to you and you went, here's a gift. Do you take that gift and put it on the shelf and go, okay, I'm just going to look at that here? Or are you going to use it? Because the point of the gift is for you to use, right? So definitely the gifts that you have, be sure to embrace those. Maybe you're not sure what they are. Maybe you still need to uncover them. That's okay. But you have those gifts to serve other people. I grew up in a really, I'm first generation Canadian. My folks were immigrants. And if anybody can relate to this, you didn't want to get in trouble at school. Because if you got in trouble at school, shit was really going sideways when you got home. Like being in trouble at school is a lot easier. Anyway, fun fact, bottom of every single report card, every single year, Deanna will not stop talking in class. Deanna will not stop talking in class. Now I get paid to talk. Be excellent. Don't half-ass it. Matthew McConaughey. You have your gifts, you have your goals, you have your dreams, show up. Be as excellent as you can possibly be, right? Point is, though, is you are also a human being and not a human doing. Those are two different things. And, you know, I'm a mom of 4 kids. Some of them are here with me today. It's like I say to my kids all the time, I promise you I always give you my best. Now, granted, some days my best is far better than others. And so that might be true for you as well. When you give something your best, you might rock it. I might go into a lecture or a class and I walk out of there and I was like, oh my God, that was great. I loved every minute of it. It was really exciting and I felt really inspired and I hope my students did too. And there are other times where I walk out and I go, oh, that was awful. But it was still my best. It was still my best. The other thing to bring to your awareness as a cancer survivor is it's always today. It's never yesterday and it's never tomorrow. It's always today. Embrace what you have in front of yourself on any given day. So I find it sort of an interesting thing when people say things like, well, if anything should ever happen to me. No, honey, it's not if, it's when. We're here for a limited time. And I don't mean that like in a sad kind of maudlin way. I'm really grateful to be here. But I will say, you know, every single day that you have is a gift. Embrace the people that you have in your life. Embrace your friends, your family, your neighborhood, your community. Be a part of those things. And be present. I mean, how many times do you do this? You know, you stand in line, you pay $8 for a coffee. You don't even remember drinking the coffee. Does anybody ever drive and not remember how you got to where you were going? And then you're like, oh God. I was glad I knew where I was going. Or, this is really fun too, you take a route that you normally take and you're going somewhere else and you realize you went the wrong way. And you're like, am I conscious when I'm driving? Or what's happening here? Being present. You know, don't worry so much. Don't worry so much. Anybody here a worrier? We got some worriers in the crowd, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a waste of time. Do you ever notice that a lot of the things that you worry about never really happen? Like if you actually wrote them down bit by bit, okay, these are the things I'm going to worry about, and then you looked at it at the end of the week, I'm going to guarantee 80% didn't happen. And we spend so much time just getting sucked into that vortex, right? And we think and we ruminate and we ruin our own day because we're worrying so much. Try not to do that. You know, and being in a hurry, well, I went too fast. Being in a hurry, don't be in such a hurry. Here's the thing. You know when people say, hurry up, last chance, sale ends tomorrow. No, it doesn't. There's another one next week. I promise there's going to be another one next week. Here's another one that I think is really valuable for young students, graduating class, young professionals, whatever. You can always make more money, but you can't make more time. And when you're really young, you think you have it all, and you have it all in front of you for a really long time, and you really do have a long time in front of you, but you can't make more time. You can make more money. Where are you spending your time? With who? Doing what? If something is a waste of time for you, if a relationship isn't serving you in an appropriate way, if there's some problem what are you doing and why are you spending your time there? Consider, I'm not going to get this time back. When you go to bed tonight, this is one last day you're going to be here, right? So thinking about who you're spending your time with and where is a great idea. Living with gratitude. Research shows this. When we experience gratitude, and I wrote it down, it activates neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, and these are all associated with pleasure, mood regulation, and it really does foster stronger and supportive relationships. It promotes empathy, generosity, and social bonding. It reduces stress and anxiety, plus you'll sleep better. So you'll be happier, I promise, if you live with gratitude. Ask for help when you need it. So I'll say to a lot of my students, please come and see me if you have any questions about anything, if I can help you with something, put your hand up or whatever the case might be. And then I've said to my students before, have you ever put your hand up in a class and someone says to you, well, you should know that by now? Anybody ever had that experience? You should know that by now. What ends up happening when somebody says you should know that by now? Then you shrink yourself and you don't want to ask those questions because you don't want anybody to think that you're foolish or you don't know what's happening. Nobody knows everything. Nobody knows everything. And frankly, as far as your faculty are concerned, and specifically I'm going to speak for myself, when my students and they come and they ask questions or they come to office hours or through email conversation or whatever the case might be, I love it when they ask questions. Because I know that they want to know, and it's indicative that they care, and they want to learn something. When I was working on my PhD, I was a grad student. When I had all of my kids, one of my kids had whooping cough at the time when I was in grad school. Introduced myself to the doc who was looking after her. And he says to me, tell me a little bit about yourself. And I said, I'm working on my PhD right now. And he looks at me and goes, you're learning more and more about less and less. And I thought, well, it's not wrong. I am learning more and more about less and less. Just want to say, even really highly educated people can be dumbasses from time to time. Ask for help anyway. Be very cautious of the entitlement trap. What is, feeling entitled means? It feels like you think that you deserve something that other people don't. Oh, they took my parking spot. No, they didn't. It's a parking spot. There's another one over there, right? Or you shouldn't have to wait in the line so long for your coffee because you're in a hurry and the other people in front of you look a little more leisurely. Here's the thing, about living like that, feeling entitled. People who feel entitled feel like they're angry and they're mad all the time. They literally live in a constant and a chronic state of disappointment. When they don't get what they want, they're annoyed. They complain a lot. Who wants to be with somebody who's annoyed and complaining all the time? And they suck the joy out of their own life, right? Don't do that to yourself. Don't do that to yourself. It's okay if you're going to wait a couple extra minutes for a coffee or a beer. It's going to taste better. Here's something to consider. It's never a bad idea to be the best dressed person in the room. And what does that mean exactly? That means give your hair a little zhuzh. Splurge on a new $10 t-shirt from Giant Tiger. I don't know, whatever makes you happy. Enjoy yourself for looking fly. When you show up looking like you care, people believe that you care. So now here's the benefit to this. It boosts a person's self-confidence. It boosts a person's self-esteem when you put effort into your presentation, which can improve your communication. It can make you appear to be more competent, and that you actually do become more competent and more credible. And by the way, for those of you who work from home, the research says that putting shoes on for some reason actually makes you more productive. Begin with the end in mind. How do you want it to go? Whatever the interaction is. Relationship problem, what do you want? How do you want to fix it? Begin with the end in mind. Where do you see yourself going? That will gauge your behavior, right? Yelling and screaming is just going to throw gasoline on the fire. Do what you can. The other point to make is that you are powerful beyond measure. I haven't had an experience with my students. A lot of young people feel invisible, they feel unseen, they feel like they don't really matter. They feel like they're only like one person in a cast of hundreds in a classroom or on a university campus or whatever the case might be. But you are powerful beyond measure because you're half of every interaction. When you talk to someone, you decide how you're going to respond. You can gauge the temperature of which way that conversation is going to go. You can turn the gas on and you can make it more miserable, or you can make it a more pleasant interaction, for sure. The other thing about silent treatment, for those of you who decide to move in that direction, that only promotes and prolongs misery. You get to decide what it is that you say, what it is that you do, what role you want to play. You do have an impact on the outcome. And for those Swifties in the room, we do love us some Taylor Swift. When she said, "Look at what you made me do," she was wrong. Speak kindly to yourself. We all make mistakes. Anybody ever have really negative self-talk? "Oh, I'm so stupid. I shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have gone there." Oh, you know, we say nasty things to ourselves sometimes. We would never say that to our best friend. We would say to our best friend, "It's okay. Tomorrow's a new day. We can do it again." Everybody falls short of the goals at some point or another. And the comparison trap is something to really consider. And most of us grew up being compared to other people. I don't know if you guys can relate to this. "Oh, why can't you be more like your sister? You know, why can't you be more successful like your cousin?" And we compare who we are and we're like, "Oh, I'm a hot mess over here." And so, you know, we have this negative self-talk about ourselves. Do your best to not compare yourself with other people as best you can. I know it's hard. There was a fabulous research study done here at the University of Guelph several years ago around people who were social media users, heavy social media users, which is where a lot of this comparison comes from. And it had very clear indication that people who are heavy social media users are more unhappy. They're more likely to suffer from depression, feel anxious, because everyone else is in Cuba and you're here eating Mr. Noodles. Right? Give yourself a little grace. Live out loud. Be happy on purpose. If you're going to wait for all, you know, the stars to align in the sky for you to be happy, you're going to be waiting for a long time. Because there's always something. "Oh, you know, if I just lost 20 pounds, my hair worked out a little better today, you know, if I got a higher grade on that paper or this relationship or whatever the case might be," then we're always looking for something else rather than just being grateful and enjoying where it is that we're currently and enjoying the experiences that we have. Here's the thing. Buddha said, and I'm paraphrasing, "What you think about, you become." Right? You thought about being a university graduate, and now you are one. Congratulations, we love you, and we're very proud of you. Go get 'em, Griffins.
So thank you so much to Deanna. I have many aspects of my job that I really appreciate, but one of those things is usually contacting the faculty member to let them know that they've been selected, and I really do think it's an incredible honor. And I know Deanna's email back to me, I could just read her enthusiasm coming off the screen out of the email. And so I think when she talks about living your authentic life, I really see that you live your authentic life. Excuse me, and I want to thank you for that. And I love your point about living life with gratitude. And so I'm really grateful for meeting the 3 lectures this evening and getting to kind of build those connections and expand my community. So thank you so much for all of your words this evening. So I joined the University of Guelph as a staff member just over 2 years ago, and everybody kept welcoming me to the Griffin family. And I didn't really know what that was at the time, and it took me a while to understand what that meant. But I have to say that today I've come to agree with the sentiment. For me, the true value comes from the people and the community here. I think the fact that each year a member of our alumni community graciously accepts the invitation to speak at this event is a touching example of the Griffin community in action. It's my pleasure to be able to introduce our final lecturer of the evening, who is a distinguished alumni. Mark Harrison is the founder of the MH3 Collective, a group of ventures whose purpose is to connect people and ideas to create social impact. The collective includes Humanity, T1, Sidekick, and Sponsorship X. In addition, he co-founded the B2I to support Black entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers, and Park Street Education, a charity to remove all barriers to children's education. His community involvement includes being a board chair of Big Brothers Big Sisters of Toronto and a board member of several organizations, including the CAMH Foundation and the Canadian Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences / the Juno Awards. Mark is a recipient of the Black Business and Professional Association's Harry Jerome Award, the Association of Canadian Advertisers 2022 Gold Medal Award winner, and a 2025 Marketing Hall of Legends nominee. Mark is also CBC Metro Morning's business columnist, where you can hear his regular takes on corporate and societal matters. I am pleased to welcome and invite Mark to the stage.
I want to ask you a question. When you hear yourself being introduced, when you hear your name through a loudspeaker, when you see your name in an email or a text, what does it mean to you? Where did your name come from? What's the heritage of it? What does it say to other people before they meet you? Does it open doors for you, or does it put up barriers? My ask of you tonight is to think about the legacy you're going to build in your name and how you're going to take that forward. My name is a slave name, Mark Alfred Harrison. On all four sides of my family coming to Canada, we were escaped slaves. On my dad's side, the Harrisons and the Greens, and on my mother's side, the Lawsons and the Johnsons. My mother's great-great-great-grandfather, Henry Dangerfield Lawson, was abducted from Ghana at 11 years old, a slave in Maryland until he was almost 16 years old, and then he escaped to Canada. Along the way, he had to actually kill his slave owner in order to get across the border. And he settled not far from here in what was called the Queen's Bush, just west of Guelph, where a lot of escaped slaves settled. When I think of my name as a slave name, think, what does that mean going forward? What does it mean for our past? I want to share some other names with you. When I was here at the University of Guelph, I was fortunate enough that the athletic director, Dave Kopp, hired me as a student to do marketing. And the one thing I loved about Dave was he immediately gave me opportunity. In fact, he let me come to the staff meetings, and the staff came up with a very creative nickname for me, Student. I also had great professors like Tom Funk and Brenda Whiteside who guided me along the way. But what they didn't know about me was that I'm not only Mark Alfred Harrison, I'm also Richard Lane Siemens. I was adopted. My mother was an unwed young woman, tried to take care of me, couldn't. I became a ward of the Children's Aid Society, and I won the adoption lottery by being adopted by the Harrisons. But I always had this very fantastical story that my mom and dad were in love and they wanted to do all these things for me, and life just wouldn't allow it. In my 40s, I met my biological father. Staring in a face and looking at bones and eyes that finally resembled mine was a weird feeling. And I wanted to know his story. I wanted to know my story. I wanted to know the legacy of this other name that I had. The first thing he said to me was, You're the oldest of 8, plus 2 roomers. Now, some of you in this room might be adopted. You might come from blended families. Imagine being in your 40s and finding out there are 7 brothers and sisters walking on this planet. You don't know their story. And more importantly, as a person running multiple businesses, 2 great kids and a great partner, volunteer high school football coach, in an instant, he took my legacy and said I was a roomer. And I ask you this question. If you'd seen on the promotion tonight that you're going to hear from Richard Lane Siemens versus Mark Alfred Harrison, what would your expectations have been? What would you thought I'd look like? What would you think I'd be talking about? What would be my approach to this evening? Think about how your name impacts every interaction that you have. I'm going to share another name with you. George Perry Floyd Jr. A name that on May 25th, 2020, almost everybody in the world got to know. As he lay there being murdered by a coworker, he kept screaming out one name, Mom. He wanted to see his mom. Later that week, after that horrific murder, I had a young colleague approach me and say, you're the owner of this company, there are 75 people here, and you're the only black person. How come? And I said to her, I've never thought about it. I've never thought about it. I've never actually thought about it. And from that moment on, I realized that I had to create a new legacy for my life. And my legacy is to look at how I can create belonging for the underestimated. What does that mean? There's 2 key words there. One is belonging. How many of you have had that moment in a locker room, in a classroom, in your family, when you feel like you could be completely absent of fear, where you didn't have to worry about what you said? And we've also been in that locker room where you've been bullied, or in that family situation where you're not happy. Underestimated. I would encourage everybody in this room to get rid of things, words in their vocabulary, such as minority, underserved, disadvantaged. With all due respect to the white heterosexual males in this room, and many of them are also underestimated, unless you're one of them, when you walk into a room and you look like me, or you look like people in this audience, if you don't walk the way people expect, if you don't talk the way people expect, if you don't love the way people expect, you are immediately underestimated. What makes them the majority and you the minority? So that's my mission. So I'm building what I'm calling the above ground railroad. And I want to share with you 5 questions I'm going to ask you to take forward as you build your legacy and you go forward in life and ask of the world. 1, demand equity. Of the top 100 paid CEOs in this country, there are more Scots than all the women on that list. There are more Michaels than all the women on that list. There are still glass ceilings and sticky floors in this country. Number 2, I want you to amplify voices. I go to a lot of events, and we always read a land acknowledgement and do nothing for our Indigenous community. It's not enough. The LA 28 games are going to have softball and baseball because they're American. They're going to have squash, they're going to have cricket, and they're going to have lacrosse for the first time in decades. And the Haudenosaunee Nation cannot compete. They just won the World Box Lacrosse Championship, but the International Olympic Committee says, you're not a country. Who decides they're not a country? They invented the sport. So stop making land acknowledgements and get out and do something. Number 3, change ecosystems. In the fall of 2018, Queen's University at their Senate decided to take a black and white rule off the books. It was literally a black and white rule. It had been started in 1918, and it said black people could not go to med school at Queen's. I'm sorry to get emotional. But my mother graduated top of her class in London, Ontario in the 50s. Second place student was some unknown guy named David Suzuki, and she could not go to med school because she was black. That has a lifetime amplifier effect on her self-esteem, on her financial abilities. Can you imagine that? 2018. I don't want an apology from Queen's. I don't want to hear you started letting black people in your med school at the end of the 60s. That rule was on the books for 100 years. So demand equity, amplify voices, challenge ecosystems, and tell people to show you the proof. There are surveys out there that show that Canadian CEOs believe that hiring somebody with an intellectual disability, like my nephew who's autistic, is going to cost them on average $20,000 in accommodation, and it's going to require 70% of the people they hire to be accommodated for. It's actually less than 5%, and it's $350. You are going to be told things all the time in your career, and I'm going to beg you to say, show me the proof. And the last thing I want you to do is to fight for belonging. We are north of an absolute crap show going on in the United States, and it's coming over here. I've got friends who are their children are transitioning. They want different pronouns. And my friends are afraid to take their children to the United States. We have to fight for belonging. The only way to come up against a bully is be a bully. As mentioned, I chair the board at Big Brothers Big Sisters Toronto, and I'm very grateful of our team who built new programs for big siblings, for big bunches, so that queer youth in Toronto can be paired with queer mentors, so they can actually have community events to feel together and to feel safe. There's 3 other people I want you to learn from that aren't here today. They're people that I went to university with. One is Emily Bain. Emily Bain, I met her working at a roadhouse on Stone Road called McGinnis Landing that isn't here anymore. And she went from being an immigrant to this country to going to the advertising world and being told that strategy was only a role for men. Strategy is only a role for men. She co-founded an agency called John Street, sold it, retired in her early 50s. But to this day, because of that economic insecurity that she had as an immigrant child, she checks all of her bank accounts. And there's a lot of money in those bank accounts. But I want you to learn from Emily. I want you to learn from Catherine Fogarty. Catherine Fogarty was a social work grad from Guelph who really wanted to fuel her passion of being creative. So she ditched social work, she launched a media company, she created a little television show you might have heard of called Love It or List It, which is a global phenomenon. And when I run into people who remember her from university, they don't believe it's the same person. Now she's a true crime author. And the third person who I went to university with, who I want to dedicate this conversation to about, is Jay Robinson. Jay lost her battle last year with breast cancer. When I went to school with her here, she was the residence hall president, student union president. We negotiated the new rinks together. And Jay was always about building community. She ended up working for the city of Toronto and created Nuit Blanche. And then she became a city councillor, including my city councillor. And at the time of her death, she was heading up the FIFA file. Jay met her husband when she was actually trying to get students to sign up for some orientation program here at Guelph. So I dedicate this conversation to Jay. And if you were able to observe those 3 women, I think you'd see 3 things. 1, every day they sold themselves to the world. I get folks coming to me all the time saying, I am super passionate about this, hire me. I'm like, really? I've been on your social feeds for a day. I've never seen you talk about it. Whatever you are going to be, say it loudly to the world. The second, they were all really good at collaboration. What do I mean by that? Bringing people along to work with them, getting family members to buy into the fact that they want to pursue their dreams, getting employees to join their startups. And they did it by listening. They are great listeners. And third, and most importantly, they knew that every single day of their lives, the most important sale they had to make was to the person in the mirror. As an entrepreneur, it's easy for me to get clients. As an entrepreneur, it's easy for me to come up with ideas. But as an entrepreneur, the hardest thing I need to do every day is sell myself to myself. So when you think about your name and what it means and where you're going to take it and how you're going to build it, I want you to think about dealing from strength and every day selling yourself to yourself. As I was getting ready for this presentation, I had a bunch of stories I'm going to tell, like the one where I run around campus in my dreams and I think I didn't actually get my degree. I don't know if you have those recurring dreams, but that's mine. I was going to tell the story that this is the first time that I've actually been sober in here. I was going to tell the story that when I worked for the Ontarian and I was sports editor, I had a 3-pick afro and I had the politically incorrect column that I named called Afro Turf, and I actually had a logo. But I'm going to tell you a very simple story. And that's a story about a Post-it note that I wrote to myself in first year, and I took that Post-it note to every dorm room I had and every off-campus room, and it was a famous quote. And that quote is, "Life is too short to be little." Life is too short to be little. I hope you agree with me.
Thank you so much, Mark. I feel like I need to pause and reflect on a lot of that, but I think for myself, one of the pieces coming out of it is reflecting on my name, and I've reflected before that my name comes with a lot of privilege and lets me have access to spaces in a different way. But I really want to spend some more time thinking about the legacy that I want to build and kind of have with that. And I love that quote, that life is too short to be little. So thank you so much for your words. So I would now like to welcome to the stage someone whose job it is to support your student experience in all that she does. To close out this evening is our Vice Provost, Student Affairs, Dr. Melinda Scott.
It is too short to be little, and they don't be stand on. But thank you so very much. It is an absolute pleasure to be here this evening and take part in this last lecture event. I want to say a tremendous thank you and a tremendous congratulations to all of our speakers, Dr. Deanna Benke-Cook, Avery Blendell, and Mark Harrison. Your words have beautifully captured the heart of our university experience, and it's been an honor to see our community through your reflections. I also want to acknowledge the incredible efforts of our student experience team, and in particular Jen Durst, whose dedication made this special gathering possible. Thank you for creating space tonight for us to come together and to mark this important milestone. And to the class of 2025, congratulations. Your university journey, as we've heard this evening, has been one of resilience and adaptability and care for yourself and for each other. And you've faced challenges with determination and embraced opportunities for growth and engaged deeply with your academic and your campus experiences. And from the moment you arrived at Guelph, you have embodied the Griffin values. And today, as you stand here on the threshold of graduation, you can take pride in all that you've accomplished. As individuals, you've grown in ways that will shape your future. And as scholars, you've explored new ideas and challenged perspectives and developed lifelong curiosity for learning. And as citizens, you've seen firsthand the power of collective responsibility in building a thriving community. Many, many, many moons ago, I was sitting in your place. I was an undergraduate student here at the University of Guelph, and I was preparing to graduate, and at that time, I was very unsure of exactly what my future would hold and where I would be going. And I returned to the University of Guelph just last year, and coming back here has reminded me of what makes this institution so special, and we've heard it throughout the night. It's its people. Being part of this campus and this alumni community means being surrounded by curious and compassionate and engaged individuals like everyone who's here this evening. And as you complete your final exams and you prepare for convocation, I hope that you know, and I hope that you feel that your time at Guelph has equipped you with the knowledge and the skills and the values to take on whatever comes next. Your journey at U of G does not end here tonight, and it does not end at convocation. You will always be part of this community as alumni and as leaders and as lifelong Griffins. So I hope that you go forward with confidence and know that your future is bright, and all of us will be cheering you on every step of the way. And remember that you are a student for a very short time, but you are a Griffin for life. So thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful evening.
And with those words from Vice Provost Student Affairs, Melinda, we close out the evening. Thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations once again to the class of 2025. Thank you. Have a good rest of your evening, and have a good last day of classes tomorrow, everyone.